Hi, welcome or welcome back to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Maria Andrea, and today I am managing to get in a tag for Tag Tuesday in the last 2 hours of the Tuesday. This is the Booktuber Name Tag created by Aaron at Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book, and he so graciously included my channel name as a prompt in this tag. So get ready, get something to drink. This might be a little bit of a long one. This might be a little bit messy because I could not just pick one book for each prompt, and let's get to it. I hope you're along for the ride. Question number one, or prompt number one, books and bocadillos. A book that features or is about food. And I had to talk about two books here. One is nonfiction. I've talked about most of these books before, but Relish, My Life in the Kitchen by Lucy Knisley. And I really love this book. This is a graphic memoir. Um, it is all, oh, bookmark just fell out of it. It is all about food, foodie. Um, so Lucy Knisley is a food writer, and she talks about her upbringing, being raised by her parents, and um, she's a daughter of a chef. So I think both of her parents are in the food world. One of them is a chef, and having a hard time remembering what the other one does, but the flap says, Lucy Knisley's mouthwatering graphic memoir will make you hungry. Whether she's injuring herself again and again in pursuit of a perfect croissant or bankrupting herself on fancy cheeses, Lucy Knisley knows what she wants: a good meal. The daughter of a chef and a gourmet, she comes by her priorities honestly. In this technicolor love letter to cooking and eating, Knisley presents her personal history as seen through a kaleidoscope of delicious things. Defying the idea of eating as a compulsion and food as a consumer product. Relish invites us to celebrate the meals we eat as a connection to our bodies and to each other. Knisley's intimate and utterly charming graphic memoir offers reflections on cooking, eating, and living, as well as some of her favorite recipes. And there are recipes in here. And the artwork is really, really cute. Colors are fun. Like, this is summer pickle recipe. I really like this one. So she walks you through the process of pickling. Um, this is sangria, what you need to make sangria. Like, and that's here, the bottom. Sorry, right here. I just love it. Sushi making, how to make sushi rolls. There's so much fun. Like, it does make you hungry. It's just, if you love food, if you love food writing, if you love cooking, this one's for you. The other book that I have to talk about, I've talked about this so many times, but seriously, this book has my all-time favorite cookie recipe in it, and it's Arsenic and Adobo by Mia Pimananzala, and this is Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery Series, Book 1. And it's a really great, cozy mystery, and in the back of each of Mia Pimananzala's books, there are recipes, and the recipes are all so good. This book was one of our book club in real life book club with friends, and we had a Filipino feast when we met for book club. And I made the cookies for the first time in this recipe. They were so good. I keep making them every single year. I make them at least once or twice a year, usually in the fall because they're ube cookies and they're purple, that really beautiful Halloween color. I've also made them for Alzheimer's awareness because they're purple and that's the color for Alzheimer's. Um, so I love this book. It is um, so good. But my favorite thing about it is the food. Mia Pimentel can write food. It's cozy mystery, so it's foodie, and it makes you hungry. It makes you crave Filipino food. Um, and again, my favorite, all-time favorite cookie is in here, and it's a treasure. I have veganized the recipe in here, and I've talked about it multiple times, but I love it. I love it so much. Okay, prompt number 2, genre books. A book in a genre you don't usually read. So, during the Guadalupe Reinas event this last Christmas season, I realized that I don't read fanzines. I don't read um, like magazine fanzines. I really had a hard time with that prompt, and um, I managed to read one last year. I picked it up at um, Powell's when I traveled to Oregon in September, and that was um, What Guinea Pigs Can Teach Us About Life, How Sleeping Piggies Show Rest as Resistance and Yawning as Care by Virginia Cafaro. This is a really cute there's photos in here about guinea pigs. If you love guinea pigs, this is such a cute little fanzine book to read. Um, but for the Guadalupe Reinas event during the Christmas holiday season, I couldn't think of a new book, so I ordered one, and I made a short about it when I unboxed it when it came in. I haven't read it though. It's Journaling About Journaling and Other Joys by Sugar Turtle Studio, and this is a beautiful fanzine. Like the artwork on this is just so fun. I've been meaning to sit and just read it, but with the new pup, I honestly have not had a minute for like uninterrupted reading. Most of my reading these days is happening on audio through audiobook listening or during my lunch breaks when I'm not home and I'm reading on an e-reader. Or if I have like a physical book that I'm carrying and I'm reading like on my lunch breaks, when I'm out and about and just have a minute to, good, like I'm waiting for something, I'll pick up a book. So my reading has been my like reading at home has been significantly less. But fanzines, it's not a genre or like a kind of book that I pick up often. So if you have any fanzines that you love, please, please, please let me know. I would love to collect more of these shorter, um, very creative, um, like books, magazines. Prompt number 3, Bookstalgic. A book that makes you feel nostalgic. Okay, I have to, like, this is it for me. Martita, I Remember You by Sandra Cisneros, or Martita Te Recuerdo by Sandra Cisneros. This book is a dose of nostalgia for me. This book is about friendship. It's about female friendships. It's about friends parting, going their separate ways, and then much later in life reconnecting. And I feel nostalgic when I read this book. I think about friends I've lost touch with. It makes you want to call a friend you haven't talked to in a long time. It reminds you of the difficult things that your girlfriends are there for when you need them. It reminds you of where you've been, about who you've traveled with, who's who's had your back, who's helped you um, through the adventures and the difficult times and the journeys that you've been on. So I love Sandra Cisneros' writing in this book. I really enjoyed the story so much. It's like it's a tiny. There's two like there's a Spanish, it's a bilingual edition. So there's the story in the novella in English and the novella in Spanish. So it's a tiny book, and half of it, like there's essentially 2 books in here. So it's a really quick read. It's short. You can't believe that there's so much in here. It takes place over a long period of time. Well, it's partly epistolary, so you're going through letters that were written, and it's it's very like reminiscing. There's a lot of um, the protagonist reminiscing about about her youth, about her friends, so the past. Just it's just the right amount of nostalgia. Next, prompt number 4: books, songs, and other magic. A book about music or magic. And it said bonus if you could do both, like magical music. Well, I don't know if I have magical music per se, but this is about book in part, and it has magical in the title. So it's magical realism, essays on music, memory, fantasy, and borders by Vanessa Angelica Villarreal. This is a memoir um, told through essays about pop culture, about music, about um, movies, about family history, um, fantasy. It's like gaming. Vanessa Angelica Villarreal is a gamer, and so she talks about like video games, um, and she also talks about who she is, her identity. Like she explores her Latinx identity, um, and it's really well written. The essays, it's all in essay form, and there's parts that are like historical. There are sections in here that are like more like article like short form, like a spread on from like a magazine or a like publication. Um, this is titled Encyclopedia of All the Daughters I Couldn't Be. And this is a beautiful short form essay article. Shorter form essay or article. There are photographs, like family photographs in here, and trying to find something about music particularly. So the encyclopedia. Like throughout the book, there's this encyclopedia of all the daughters that couldn't be, and I guess it's written kind of like you would find it the layout in like an encyclopedia with the columns. So I'm going to read from the chapter En Utero, and this is what it says. In the summer of 1994, 2 figures appear at opposite poles of my identity, Selena Quintanilla and Kurt Cobain. 1994 was a threshold year. I was 12 in transition between childhood and adolescence, between my grandmother's death and my brother's birth. Back then, family still came to visit, and that summer a van of Tios and Tias sputtered up to Houston from the Rio Grande Valley to support us, though the Tios also came to catch a once-in-a-lifetime World Cup game in Dallas, the first time the Cup was ever held in the United States. One day I tagged along with my cousins to the Pulga at the Astro Arena, site of the Houston Livestock Show and rodeo and flea markets and trade shows in the off-season. There I bought my first 2 CDs from a vendor who also sold big brass belt buckles with words like Chilango on them. I needed something more from music, but I didn't know what. I flipped through the jewel cases one by one, half hoping to find Amor Prohibido, Selena's latest and final album, until I reached a strange image with a familiar name, Nirvana. On the cover, an angel looked down with open arms, winged and serene until you noticed her brain, the frond of her ribs, her curling intestines, a clear plastic human anatomy model with angel wings, her body stuffed with organs. I opened the case. Printed on the disc was a photo of a masculine person in drag, smoking a cigarette, black lingerie sagging on their crumpled body. I turned the case over. The back cover is a coral-tinted collage of discarded fetuses, lilies, bones, death, and creation. the mess of the womb. I recognized every image on the album with my whole body, every symbol on the cover in my language, the anatomy figure for a childhood spent in hospitals, looking at anatomy diagrams and medical images, the lilies from my mother, a florist who brought stargazers to my grandmother's hospital room every few days, the drag for the clothes I borrowed from my dad and wore to school, trying to fit in and look more chola, the angel for my grandmother Angelica, her visible organs, her body experimented on, palms out, arms open, ascending, descending, and the title in utero for my brother, who was already in my mother's belly the day I bought the album, and whom I would witness come into the world. The Astro Arena shares a parking lot with the Astrodome, where just 6 months earlier, on December 6, 1993, Nirvana played their final Houston show. 6 months later, on February 26, 1995, Selena would play her final concert at the Astrodome. On the day I looked for Amor Prohibido and bought In Utero instead, I stood in the same place on earth. Kurt Cobain and Selena Quintanilla would also perform 6 months apart in either direction in time. Now, if that's not magical and like far out, I don't know what is, but Magical Realism Essays on Music, Memory, Fantasy, and Borders by Vanessa Angelica Villarreal. Absolutely love this. This is also one of our book club books last year for my in real life book club with friends. Next, Passage of Time, a book that is set over a long time frame. For this one, I have a couple. I have Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This takes place over a really long period of time. This book is a masterpiece. I read it thanks to Melinda at Web Stories. She had the read along going, and I would read this again and again and again. It was just a masterpiece of a book. It follows Jean Valjean and Cosette over a really long period of time, most like a lifetime. So you get to see things play out in history through the storytelling in here. And the other one that I thought I had on like here, but I guess I don't have it here. It's probably in my book bag. Is Thursday Night Widows by Claudia Pinedo. That one is written over. It like the story takes place over 10 years. And when you read that book, one thing that kind of shocked me about it was it doesn't feel like it's 10 years. It's a short novel. It's not very long at all. And it's a lot. Like 10 years, you get to follow the lives of like 5 or 6 families, and they're living in isolation from the city. Like they've bought land out in the country, and they have this very exclusive community that's very sheltered, and they're not wanting to see the poverty, and not wanting to be like mixing with like the lower classes. It talks about a lot about classism. These uber rich families living in like a country club kind of situation, and they're locked in, and it feels like an escape room. And the really like mind-blowing thing to me was that you kind of feel like you're in this escape room situation, like you're in a small contained environment, and there's a lot happening, and you're there over the span of 10 years with these families. Like you're watching the kids grow up in the span of 10 years, and the marriages go through their ups and their downs. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's just, you get to see like how people change, how families change over a decade. It's not a huge amount of time, not like Les Miserables, but it feels very mind blowing to know, to realize that in such a short amount of time, Claudia Piñero writes the lives of like 5 or 6 different families over the span of 10 years. It's pretty incredible. And I think she does it really, really well. So that is Thursday Night Widows by Claudia Piñero. We just read that for the Piñero Project, and I absolutely loved it. I'm still thinking about that book. There's just so much in it. So much in it. Like Claudia Piñero went all in and so many metaphors, so many social issues in that book. It's a criticism on Argentinian society, classism, Latin America at large, the classist nature of like society throughout Latin America. The the story takes place in Argentina, but the adaptation was made in Mexico, and it's like the setting is Mexico, not Argentina, and it's probably like that kind of a book where the story applies throughout Latin America. Like it's familiar. It's familiar to like across many different countries that are run by oligarchs and that you experience um, that divide between the very rich um, and the lower classes. She it's political in nature. It's a political. I consider it to be political horror. Um, it's anthropological. There's criticism about like at the time it's right after 9/11. George W. Bush is working on the border wall, and it's kind of like an indictment on what does this say? Like, what is the message that building a wall conveys, and how people, communities, countries can try to shut their eyes, shut their world, to not to like exclude the unwanted. Um, it's just it's amazing. So I had to like squeeze this one in here because I think it's amazing how well done this exploration of like themes in like a decade happens in this novel. Highly recommend. And next prompt, Your True Shelf, a book you couldn't believe was a true story. Um, a couple. So I thought I brought Educated. I thought of Educated as one. I read that one last year and it was pretty uh, remarkable, incredible, difficult to read, heartbreaking. Um, and this one, in a bit more of like a funny way, I Am by Maggie O'Farrell. Maggie O'Farrell experiences 17 brushes with death. Now, like, to believe that this is a true story, like, I mean, I believe her. It's told in essays. Each brush of death or brush with death is an essay. It's just incredible that she lives to tell the story of her crossing paths with death 17 times. And I'm grateful for Maggie O'Farrell. She's one of my favorite authors. Um, I really enjoyed this memoir. I thought it was very well written. It's just incredible. And it's like, wow, like this woman has survived so much, has lived through so many trials and tribulations, and she's telling her story. And I think it's really, really great. Um, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning more about one of my favorite authors. Next, I have Spread Book Joy, a book that makes you happy. So, a book that I love because it made me laugh so much because of how absurd it was. I love an absurd book. Like an absurd book is my jam. And so it's Temporary by Hilary Lecter, and this is absurd. So absurd. Kelly Link, there's a blurb I'm looking at. It says, in Temporary, the quest for gainful employment is epic, operatic, deliciously, sunnily, terrifyingly entertaining. Hilary Lecter is a conjurer of rare talent. Yeah, I I laughed out loud. I thought this was such a good book. Um, I'll read the back. I just talked about this book before. In Temporary, a young woman's workplace is the size of the world. She fills increasingly bizarre placements in search of steadiness, connection, and something at last to call her own, whether it's shining an endless closet of shoes, or swabbing the deck of a pirate ship, assisting an assassin, or filling in for the chairman of the board for the mythical Temporary. There is nothing more personal than doing your job. This riveting quest, at once hilarious and profound, will resonate with anyone who has ever done their best at work, even when work is only temporary. So, if you love work or you hate work, this is a fun book to read. I'm looking at this. Ramona Ospel writes a blurb that says, Temporary took me by storm. Each short chapter is a wallop of topsy-turvy wisdom and humor, and together they build a strange and sparkling universe. The novel is about work and identity and the masks we wear, but it's also about our weird little human hearts and what they can bear. I am a Hilary Lecter superfan, and so am I. You know, Week of Weird is coming up. If you're participating in Week of Weird, this is one weird book. Read it. Read it, read it, read it, and let me know what you think, please. I love this book so much. See, I like tabbed it. This is an all-time fave. Prompt number 8, book chat with Pat. A book with great dialogue. Okay, I'm excited about this one. So this book is all there goes my stack of books. This is all dialogue. It's Oye. I took the cover off because it had a color thing going on my bookshelf, and so I just needed the bright yellow color. So this is Oye by Melissa Mogollon. This book is all dialogue, like seriously, all dialogue. If if you're into audiobooks, try the audiobook. An example. I'll start at the beginning. I'll just read to you a little bit. Chapter number 1. Pásame el teléfono. I can't believe you called me 6 times for this today, Mari. Abue is going to be fine. Whether she evacuates or she stays, she's an immortal Pokemon. Oh my god. And you left me a voicemail? I just saw the notification. You are such a closeted boomer. Well, now that I know you're alive, I'm going to need a second to breathe. I thought you had been kidnapped and the police were calling me to demand some answers since you have me saved as Ice Psychopath in your phone. Yes, Mom told me you still haven't changed that, which is not only rude, but by the way, but also impractical. Have you thought about that? What's going to happen when you have an actual emergency one day? You're going to be like on your last breath begging for help, and the cops won't be able to reach me because my phone's going to be locked away in Mrs. Nelson's desk again for ringing during class. Luciana Dominguez, is that your phone? Yes? Give it. You can get it from me at the end of class. Wait, it's Mari. This effing B. Luciana, sorry, it's just my sister. It was on loud because no one ever calls me, dude. So imagine my surprise when I get my phone back and see 6 missed calls thinking that you're either dead or I'm being framed just to call back and get your unbearable high-pitched voice on the line screaming about our grandmother. Mm-hmm. And it's really all or nothing with you, huh? Because I hadn't heard a peep out of you since you went back to school. Nope, not a single word. And when I texted you, being vulnerable, asking if it was weird that I was starting my senior year but was still scared of Mom, I shouldn't be this afraid, but her eyes are so scary. Is that normal? Should I feel more confident? Or during the important and personal milestone of Rihanna launching her Fenty Beauty line last week, ignore my text about Mom. I'm over it. But you can send me $30 though. It's urgent. And now here you are. And it's like that on and on and on. These two sisters having a phone conversation. And then there's chapters in which it's Luciana and her mom and her abue having a conversation. And it's like it's it's just fun, but it tells a really deep story. So it's fun with substance. It's fun in the way that it's told, that it's constant dialogue and conversation, and you feel like you're listening in on a phone call. Like, think about like what it would be if you were ranting with someone you loved, like a sibling or a parent, and someone was listening in on your like juicy rant. So it's kind of like that, like you're feeling like you're like eavesdropping on somebody's very personal conversation. Um, like sitting in a coffee shop and eavesdropping into people's conversations. That's what this book feels like. And there's a lot of really deep and dark themes in this book. There is language. So this book feels like YA to me. It feels very much like YA, but it's not marketed as YA because of language. So keep that in mind. If you're okay with F bombs and language, then you shouldn't have a problem with this book. But if you're sensitive about language and you avoid cursing, then you might have a problem getting into it. Oh, sorry. Next prompt. Roving Reader, a book that is set in multiple countries or lands. And for this one, I chose Nuestra Parte de Noche by Mariana Enriquez, Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. I have the Spanish, the original Spanish text for it. This also takes place over a long period of time. You see like a whole lifetime. Um, you walk through like 3 different generations of a family, and the family travels from London to Argentina, and then it's the Argentinian um, revolution, and the family has to leave, and I believe they go to Bolivia. They might also end up in Brazil. If I'm like in my head mapping it out. I think they flee Argentina during the revolution. I think they end up in Brazil eventually. Um, but this is a really dark and beautifully written story about family, a curse, a cult. There's a lot of occult stuff happening in here as well. Um, yeah, if all those things sound interesting to you, then this is a really good book to read. And lastly, a book that matches the name of a channel you love. So, me, the channel that I want to shout out through this tag is It's Mimi Duong. Mimi is such a fun booktuber. She is someone I consider a friend. I love her content. She is funny and um, just really easy to like engage with and love. And so I wanted to shout her out, and I was looking at my bookshelf, and first I was like, okay, a title that starts with a word that that's like has an apostrophe, that it's like a contraction. And I thought, it's all in the frijoles. It starts with it's. It's all in the frijoles. 100 famous Latinos share real life stories, time tested dichos, favorite folk tales, and inspiring words of wisdom by Yolanda Nava. So this is a book about it's essays about Latinx stories, uh, lived experiences. It's really fun. I mean, it's really fun because for me, it feels like I can relate to it, I can connect to it. So, as a Latinx person, I enjoy this book. But then I also was looking at my shelves and thought, okay, I could also find a title that kind of says like this is my name, like so the book that I ended up going with is My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout. Like my name is, it's Mimi Duong. Like so it felt like this was a good match for Mimi's channel. This is probably a book that I'm going to put on my must read in 2025. This book has been on my TBR for ages. Every year I tell myself this is a book that I need to read this year, and I just haven't gotten to it. So I really want to get this read. I'm caught up with the Olive ones, but I need to catch up with the Lucy Barton books. So I need to start. So my name is Lucy Barton. For the channel, it's Mimi Duong. I have other books that I set out that I wanted to talk about, and I'm just gonna briefly show them to you because I pulled them off my shelf. So a couple of books that I also had for books you can't believe are real life were My Brilliant Life by Erin Kim, translated by Chi Young Kim, and The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, based on real events. Historical fiction. There's an adaptation coming out or just released that I really want to watch. So another book that I really need to read ASAP. These books are on my unread shelf. A book that makes me happy. Another one, in addition to Temporary Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This book makes me all sorts of happy and content. And What Feelings Do When No One's Looking, translated from the Polish by Jennifer Croft. This is by Tina Osiewicz and Alexandra Zaja. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but this is a picture book, children's picture book, and it's so beautiful. This one says Longing Travels. So, what feelings do when no one's looking? It's just beautifully illustrated and it's so poignant. And then another book I picked off my coffee table. The Art of Ramona Quimby. I've talked about this book before. I've shared this book here. This makes me all sorts of nostalgic. So for the prompt about nostalgia, this is definitely another one that makes me feel nostalgic. In addition to Martita, I Remember You. So that's it. Those are all the books, and those are all the prompts, and those are all the channels. I will link all the channels below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to be back again soon. Hasta la próxima.